let's check in with our Chief Election Analyst, Tom Connell. Tom.
Kieran, this referendum has taken shape. So let's just remind ourselves where we're at right now. This is the vote that's come in. Tasmania, we've already said, is going to be a no result. 59%, 39% of the vote in. And on what expectations were happening, the no side way overperforming. New South Wales, we just wanted to see a little bit more of the inner city data, if you like, to see if that could possibly save what's happening. Because the trend so far out in the regions and out of suburbs strongly against compared to the benchmark for the yes side, if you like. And we are seeing in Wentworth a pretty strong result for the yes side, but that's actually slightly below expectations of what the yes camp would want if they're going to carry the state. So that looks good, but it's nowhere near enough. It's not actually making up anything compared to what's happening in the regions and also the outer suburbs. And let's look at one other electorate. We took you through a lot before and how bad they were in New South Wales. Here's another Labor-held one of Watson. So the margin is 15%. As you can see here, that's for Tony Burke, the no side leading by 5% at the moment. On the booth so far, we're talking about double digits down for the yes side compared to where they wanted to be. So the story in New South Wales at the moment is the state has certainly gone hard against the no in those regions and the outer suburbs. The cities are better, but they're not good enough. They're not going to save them. So in New South Wales, we are seeing that state gone now. That votes no. The yes side will not come back from that. So now we see 2 states already for no. We know we can't see another one fall. And yet look at the numbers so far for South Australia. Only 10% of the count. And the issue here, again, it's been the same thing in South Australia. Some of those smallest or the regional seats, the early booths came in and they're looking dire. You can see here, look at this, 81% towards the no side. And we expected grey to be very strong for the no side. This is way ahead of expectations for the no or the yes camp. So there's your first issue. You're losing ground compared to where you wanted to be if you're in the yes camp. Then you get back and you say, well, the city's going to save us. Let's have a look at Hindmarsh, for example. So far, 58% no at 11% counted. It's a 9% seat for Labor. That one's not trending well again. So the regions aren't trending well, and this is below the benchmark both sides agree is needed to happen, significantly below 5% or so. There's one area that's going a little bit better at the moment, and that's Boothby. But again, where this is tracking right now, the yes on 55%, that's about where the yes camp feels like it needs to be on the booth so far. But the problem is they're not making up for all the other territory they've lost. So South Australia as well, even though it's very early in the count, that's a significant enough margin. Again, the yes side's not going to come back from it. That's a no. South Australia, no. And it's pretty simple maths from here. Once you get to those 3 states, the referendum cannot pass. Now, I don't think that the yes camp's going to win either in terms of the overall 2-party preferred. We wouldn't call that before we had a single vote from Queensland. But regardless, once you get that situation, you're talking about the entire referendum now because of those 3 states are going to vote no. The referendum has failed.
The referendum has gone down. Tom Connell, thanks for your analysis. Let's get a reaction from our panel. Michelle Rowland, our senior member from the government here this evening. It's a wipeout for the Yes campaign by the looks of things.
Well, of course, we accept the decision of the Australian people and is disappointing for those thousands and thousands of volunteers and for people who have been involved in this movement over a very long period of time. But I think one of the key things we have now is to ensure that whilst Australians have said no to this referendum, they certainly have not said no to the need to close the gap and to do better than the status quo. And that is the challenge that is not only before the government, which we gladly pick up, and one of the reasons why we took this referendum forward, but it is also, as has been articulated on this panel tonight, a challenge for all of Australia. To ensure that whatever we do in our respective roles, that we do better for Indigenous Australians. I particularly want to thank so many volunteers who have never been involved in politics before, so many people in my local area whom I had experiences with who do not vote Labor and who decided to get on board with this campaign. People from various faith groups, various community organisations. And I take issue with any description of the migrant communities. I don't think there is such a homogenous thing. And we have even seen, for example, in my area, which is very diverse, so many different community groups come out and campaign strongly in favour of this proposition. It's obviously not succeeded tonight, but my last point I will make is Australians are smart people. Australians and democracy is always the right result. Australians always get it right on these occasions. They know how to differentiate between general elections with referenda, and I think that this again demonstrates the conviction of the Prime Minister to follow through with an election commitment. There will be going through the entrails of every aspect, I'm sure, of this referendum. But ultimately, this was about listening to the First Nations people who said this is the form of recognition they wanted, this is the form of constitutional change they wanted. The Australian people have rejected that today, but it still leaves the big challenge and the big opportunity for the Albanese government to do measurable and practical differences that will improve Indigenous people's lives, to close the gap and make us a better nation overall.